This year really gets into some pretty deep waters, and I certainly hope I'll do justice to this. I've spent now 2 weeks preparing this year, so keep me back to. And as I was saying before, the message you got said this is the last before Pesach. That'll have to, but it's not, because I'm here next Wednesday and then I fly to Los Angeles the day after, so we can have one more. We'll have to have something on Pesach next week. Okay, the Rambam. The Rambam says in Hilchos Yesodei Torah, Perek Zayin, Yesodei Hadas is a fundamental thing to understand. Shakel Menava is b'nei Adam, that there's such a thing as Nevi'as, and Hashem will speak to human beings. And then it gives a whole list of requirements for a person to be a Novi. You have to be a Chochem Godel b'Chochem, not just a Chochem Godel b'Chochem, a Gibber b'Medoisav, outstanding in control of your midas. You don't like anything any Yetzer Hara ever conquer you, rather consciously, whom is Gaber b'Datzoi, you consciously fight against it. Al Yetzer Tamid Bal Das Rechov Nichtavad Moed. So your person is incredible das, incredible knowledge. And if you've got all those ingredients, and you have to be shonen begufayim, you have to be physically perfect as well, then if all those things are in place, then it might be that Hashem will, if you've got those qualities, and you work on yourself, and you go and study Nevi'ah, so it's actually yeshivas where people went to study to become Nevi'im, then it could be, you study with Navi, that Hashem might give you a message. It's possible. He says, in Halacha Beis, I'm missing out a huge chunk, Nevi'im malos hein. And you should understand that in the same way as there's one Talmud Chochem, a Rav who might be more knowledgeable than another Rav, and just like I suppose you could have a doctor, Avdil who's more knowledgeable than another doctor, same with Nevi'im. Manas hein. He uses the exact same, or I use his example. Just see the one Talmud Chochem is greater than the other. Mechiver Kachman Nevuah Novi God Novi got Novi is greater than another Novi. But Kula in Roin Marab Nevuah and the Becholam. The only way that they see they get the message is through a cholam, a bechizan halayla, through a vision at night time, or b'yom, acha shetipa b'lehem terdoma. So you go into like a trance, and then this is how it would work. Fine. And then he goes on to say that what the Novi gets, and the message he has to interpret himself. And he says, Kol Nevim ein misnavim b'kol eshe yitza. Of course, a Novi can't pick up the phone. Right, it's a one-way line, telephone line. It's when Hashem decides to speak to you. But in Vov it says, "Kol ha'dvarim she'omra hein derech nevuah kol ha'nevim." Everything I've said up to now, and of course I've just extracted a fraction of that. That applies to all the Nevi'im, all the prophets, the Rishonim, the Achrayim, and the earlier and later prophets. Chutz min Moshe Rabbeinu, of course. Duh. I'm not talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabban kol Nevi'im. He's hayotzim min haklal. Ma hefresh yesh bein nevuas Moshe v'shar Nevi'im. And what's the difference? Well, Shkol Nevi'im b'cholam abamara b'Moshe Rabbeinu hu er v'oimet. As he said, they go into a trance, they go into a sleep, and then they get the message. No, Moshe Rabbeinu is wide awake, like most of us are. Shonem says, "B'vo Moshe el Moshe command, but the dabar yitay v'yishma es kol." Hashem spoke to him when he was wide awake. Kol Nevi'im al yidei malach. Any message that came to any Novi, any other Novi, was through a malach, a messenger. Roin shehin roin b'Moshe b'chila, and that's why it's indirect. It's like that in America they got that game called, and in England they call it Chinese whispers, which they probably don't use anymore because I'm undoubtedly unpolitically correct. But in America they call it broken telephone. So you sort of like start down the end of the table, and by the time it gets around here it's all distorted. So there's a madriga between, but it's not so clear, and therefore there's room for it's in the form of it's almost like a puzzle. And they have to put the pieces back into the right order. Moshe Rabbeinu lo al yidei malach. No, Hashem spoke directly to Moshe Rabbeinu. Shneimar pe'al pe'ah daber boy. And then there's a whole bunch of other conditions that make Moshe Rabbeinu yotzim min haklal. So any other novel, nobody can compare. Like Kol is thrown to Moshe. Nobody's as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. Anybody comes, he goes on later to say, anybody comes and tries and change anything Moshe Rabbeinu says, that's a Novi Sheker, and he's Chayv Misa. That's that. No, Moshe is the Shpitz. And the reason that the subject for tonight's shiur is simply because in one of the times I had the great pleasure of actually being in town not too long ago, in Parshas Pekudi. So it says, might as well start at the beginning. Eli Pekudi Mishkan. The Pekudi of the Mishkan Ha'edus, the Mishkan was to be a place of testimony or proof, if you like, of Hashem. Asher Pogad al Pi Moshe Avodas Levim, which was appointed by Moshe, the work of the Levim, Biyad Isamar ben Aaron HaKohen. Fine. Ubetzalel ben Uri, and it's Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur, so that makes him a close relation of Moshe. Lamati Yehuda from tribe Yehuda also is called Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. Then he did everything that Hashem commanded Moshe to do, and that form of words is interests Rashi or Chazal. So Rashi says here, we all know this. Asher Tziva Isa Moshe in Kesiv. It doesn't say that Betzalel did what Moshe commanded him, but what Hashem commanded Moshe. Okay. Ela kol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Afilu dvarim shelo omar loy rabbi. Even things that Moshe didn't tell him, he understood. Schema datoi, the language is going to make him very crucial. Schema datoi, l'man shenemar, l'moshe b'sinai. He understood what Hashem said to Moshe in Har Sinai. Ki Moshe tziva leBetzalel asas techila kelim. Because Moshe told him, make the furniture of the Beis HaMikdash, the Oren and the Shulchan and all the things. Then you should make the Mishkan. Betzalel said to him, people normally build the house first and then they put the furniture in. So he says to him, but you know, you're right, that's exactly what Hashem told me to do. Quite right, that's exactly as you said you should do it. That's exactly what Hashem told me to do. You should do it that way. Quite right, thank you very much. Now this is profoundly problematic. How did Moshe forget? Or as Michael Russa, that was somebody, a very fine person called Rabbi Yitzchak Young, as he said, if Moshe misses things or slips up, then how can we depend on anything in the Torah? Maybe he forgot it. Maybe there's something missing. I mean, that was just the beginning of the conversation. But you see the problem. So here, there's nobody as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. Any other Novi is second-hand, whatever you want to call it.
Maybe also Novi Shekovash Mevoso?
Sorry?
If it's called also Novi Shekovash Mevoso.
Yeah, and of course.
It's anybody wrong, it's like,
yeah, that's right. So if you challenge Moshe's, anything Moshe says and says that bit's redundant, apart from, of course, a Rosh Hashanah, and that's a different thing, then you're dead. That's it, you can't miss it. It's Yizkadash. And yet here, why? Because Moshe, that is the Torah. Moshe is the Torah. Moshe's, whatever he says is perfect, but it's not perfect here. Is that the only time that Moshe Rabbeinu forgot stuff? No. Pinchas, now that's a bit different. The problem with Pinchas is that Moshe gets upset, right? So Zimri parades his non-Jewish princess in front of him and says, Zu muter li Allah, very romantic. Is this permissible to me or not? And if not, who allowed you to have your shitza? So in that distress, I'm not sure exactly, we'd have to let the whole shitza all right. But in his distress, let's just call it distress, he forgot what the halacha was, that the Yar Pinchas sees, and he comes and he says, Lamadatim Nechol, you taught me, I remember. So it's not that Moshe had forgotten because he'd forgotten through distress. That's slightly different. Here, he's not distressed here. It's just that he seems to get it wrong. Make the kelim, and then make the mishkan. You sure? Because normally they do that. You're right. Hashem. No, there's no hint that there's something wrong going on here. So it's somewhat distressing. Then this is the Gemara Menachos in Koftes. It's one of the easiest Gemaras to remember in the whole of. Oh, no. Candy fight. In the whole of Shas, because it's got those. You always know when you're in Koftes. That's the best. Okay, so here in Koftes Amud Aleph, it says the following thing: Tanad be Rabbi Shmuel, Shlosh devarim hoyer kashin lo Moshe. There were three things which are extremely difficult for Moshe to be toifus, to chap, as they say in English, to understand. It says, V'zeh ma'aseh menorah. This is the ma'aseh of the menorah. Pasuk 1. Sorry, missed that. Sorry, I read the wrong line. Until Hashem showed him with his finger. That's the menorah. V'rosh chodesh. So he didn't get menorah. Moshe didn't get that. He didn't get Rosh Chodesh. Shrotzim. So Parsha Shmini, right? The animals that are. He didn't quite get the difference, the distinction between a kosher locust and a non-kosher, which is obviously strange. Anyway, menorah. How do you know menorah? Because v'zeh ma'isa menorah. The v'zeh is the point there. This is the pointing of the finger. Hashem pointing of the finger. Rosh Chodesh ksiv chodesh hazeh. Right, almost as though he's pointing to a calendar or something. Okay, fine. Okay. Rosh Chodesh shrotzim ksiv v'zeh lechem. These are the Tommy ones. V'yishamrim af hilchos shchita. And another one says af hilchos shchita. There's a thesis here that talks about the mass is a shekel. Obviously, that was another one of the things that Moshe Rabbeinu found very difficult. Hashem had to show, but it doesn't say zeh. Okay, there's lots to say now, but I'm not going to go flying off in a different direction. So clearly, there are things that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't get apart from the idea of the order of the making of the Mishkan, and that becomes even more problematic. So the things that he's not getting, then lo comments or Moshe, no other Navi was like him. But he is the purest conduit, the Torah, the pipe, if you like, where all the instruction flows from Shemayim. And yet, if we can see example after example when there's a hole in the pipe, or there's a blockage in the pipe, maybe that'd be a better way to put it. Okay. So, are you all struggling here? I mean, I'm struggling with it. And I spent 2
What
minutes.
about the memory? What if he hit the rock?
Yeah. So again, if you inject Moshe getting upset as he did then, right? Because then again, it's a provocation. So I mean, it's a taina against him. It's a complaint against him because he allowed himself to get upset there. But when they say, no, not that rock, Moses, this rock. Yeah, we know this guy. He used to be a shepherd. He knows what his wells, right? So then again, that challenge, then boom, he gets angry. I mean, whatever it means, Moshe getting angry, but certainly it seems to be a flaw. We're not talking. I can understand. I get Moshe Rabbeinu getting it wrong because he gets upset. Because then, when we all get upset, then his madriga, of course, but there's a microscopic wobble. But here, there's no wobbles. He's just not getting it. There's something in the etzem nevius of Moshe Rabbeinu that's struggling here.
Here he forgot.
Sorry?
Here he forgot.
Yeah.
But there he didn't know. He didn't get it. When he didn't get it.
Yeah.
Understand it. It's the
Yeah,
difference.
understand. Yeah. Oh well, actually, so wow, that's where we're going now. So
Is this the left part? Is that
Sorry?
another example, or that's just
no, he doesn't seem to know. Yeah,
That's a new thing.
That's a new thing.
That's something.
Yeah, that's at that time he goes and says, Hashem, what's the halacha? Hashem says, I told you this.
Right.
He says, yeah, this is the halacha because it's a new innovation.
Gebeurt HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him a tzivui and told him, Moshe, you can use your own judgment to do whatever.
Yeah, and of course there are things that Moshe is mechadish and Hashem is masking to. But let me read you an Alshach. So the Alshach HaKadosh, he says, I'm just make sure I've got this right place here. There's a medrash, and the medrash says, let's go back to the menorah. Meaning the medrash, it says, Yalka Aloiska, Omer Chazal, Zeh Maisa Menorah. This is the Maisa Menorah. We quoted that from the Gemara a second ago. Malamet Sharo Isa Arba Pa'amim. There's a mashmos here, and I'm not going to, because I've got too much to get through, but you can see yourself. You can trust me in this one. He showed him it 4 times. Right, Moshe just didn't, and the Alshach goes through. The 4 psukim that show that Hashem is saying, this is it, you get it? It's almost like teaching a child, and in fact, as it's Hashem is Baruch, that's not a begam the covet of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's when the kid's not getting it, and you have to go over it again and again and again. So in the case of the menorah, it wasn't just that Moshe found it difficult; he found it difficult 4 times. So why 4 times? So the Alshach says, takes off glasses. A sign of my receding youth, as my optician tell me. My wife does this, and I wouldn't dare say that to her. She still claims to be 27. Ki arba fa'omim ra oisei. So the Alshach says he showed it 4 times. The who? Ki hine. Ha'ilama saying arba. Why? Because there are 4 worlds. 4 worlds doesn't mean planets in this case. I think Madriga's levels, dimensions, dimensions is the English word that works best for me in this context. Olam Elyon, that's the world where Hashem, the world, whatever this means, the dimension, however you want to imagine this, where Hashem is. Ba'olam HaMalachim, below that is the world of Malachim. Ba'olam HaGalgalim, and then the world of the planets. And I think you know that the Rambam says that planets are living creatures. Do you know that? Rambam says in the Side of Torah that the planets are living creatures and recognize each other. Their das is significantly less than Malachim, but significantly greater than human beings. And they recognize Hashem. But let's not go there.
What about Pluto?
Mars is living.
What about Pluto? He's a dog.
They demoted it. It's not a planet anymore.
Are you kidding?
No.
The unplaneted Pluto?
This is
Why?
a while ago.
Okay, I'm really out of things there. Why did they demote Pluto?
Was it behavior?
Small, doesn't fit the right
Criteria.
definition.
The chutzpah. Anyway, Olam HaElyon, Olam HaMalachim, Olam HaGalgalim, Olam HaShofel, and then our world here. Now we're getting into pretty deep stuff. But this is the Alsha, so we're not yet as deep as we might get. Yeah, this is so bad, actually, because I knew you would all run away. The rest of this forum were there. I'm a bit about No! Okay. This is what you get for not coming last week. Okay. V'olam HaShofel. B'nei Rishoyna Horaloi Hu Yisborach Tavnis Mishkan HaMenorah. So at the beginning, Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu the Mishkan and the Menorah. Maru Ruchnias Me'in Olam HaElyon. And how he saw it. Now, of course, where does he see this? Where does Moshe see this vision? On Har Sinai. So it's where he's. Is he physically in heaven? Is he physically here? My son, who I was discussing this with, says no. The Gemara in Sukkot clearly says that he was physically here. But in Madriga, I'm not so sure about this. I want to argue about it because, after all, when he comes down from Har Sinai, there's a physical transformation. You can't look at him. His face is shining. You would be blinded, I suppose. He has to wear a veil, like looking at the sun when there's an eclipse or something. So I'm not sure. Was there a physical transformation? The Gemara certainly says, talks about people who do, as I'm sure you've read in my latest book. People who actually went to there's only a couple, but actually went to Shemayim alive, apart from Eliyahu or Novi. Anyway, Balama, so why is it? Sorry? David Melech? I don't know that.
I just looking at this night.
Yeah, I guess it was a large
whole
list.
story.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
went and took him.
Yeah. Anyway, so certain times Mara Ruchnias Me'in Olam HaElyon, but he's seeing it Me'in Olam as it is. Hashem showing him. So you're seeing the Mishkan and the Menorah as it appears in heaven. Hold on. V'lama sheruchnias ha'olam hu ruchoni ma'od. And since that the ruchnias of olam hu, heaven where Hashem dwells, is pure ruchnias, ein hatzir nitfas be'etzem ha'seichel ha'odam, then it can't be contained within a human intellect. Okay, look. When I used to say shiur in universities, if there was a cocky student, I used to do this in yeshiva as well when I was teaching in Shor Yosef. It's always good fun to do this. You ask your students to invent a new color. You come across this? Invent for me a new color. I used to modify. I said, I'm fed up being a poorly paid rabbi. I am, and so I want to be a rich rabbi. And so how I'm going to get out of the poverty trap is I'm going to write a book. So instead of the book that I'm writing at the moment, book number 12, I'm going to write a best-selling non-Jewish book, and my genre is going to be science fiction. That's how I used to do it for university students. So I've got this idea: somebody goes from this world to another world in a spaceship, and here he encounters an alien creature, the likes of which nobody has ever seen. And so I used to tell my students, and I'm stuck. I can't think of what the alien should look like, because everybody's seen Little Green Men and all that sort of stuff. So I want you to help me invent a brand new alien. And don't worry, when I become very rich, I'll remember that you gave me the idea, and there's $10 in this for you. So help me invent a new alien. So a student will say, well, he's got 100 heads. No. New. I know what 100 is, and I know what a head is. I want a new concept, right? So I know what a head is. If you just multiply by 100, here's something new. So somebody says, well, you can see through it, but no. I can see through a window. I mean, that's not translucent, is what you're talking about. No, it's not good. So after you sort of like torture them for as long as they'll let you get away with it, then people get very frustrated. And I remember one guy saying, it's a Spagliborg. I said, what? It's a Spagliborg. And I said, what's a Spagliborg? He said, it's a Spagliborg. He wouldn't. In other words, of course, you can't do it. You can only imagine something that's within your level of experience, right? It's interesting to note that when European explorers came to Polynesian islands, the indigenous people saw these ships arriving, big ships with sails, sort of like beautiful thing. They had no concept what that was at all. So they, in their histories, how they wrote this down and told people, they saw great big birds landing, huge enormous birds landing in the sea. Because the white sails, they could only relate it to birds' wings, right? Because they had canoes, but what's that? But if you've never seen something, you can never relate. We can only relate to what's inside our world. Does that make sense? Okay. That's why you can never describe Hashem. As soon as you say he's like, well, everything that you're going to compare it to is something he made, so he can't, by definition, be like that. So you're stuck. You what's mean this? Oh. Now imagine you're seeing, well, as Moshe Rabbeinu says, show me your kavod, show me kavodecha. And he says, you can't see me and live. It was an impossibility. There's things that are beyond the human mind too. Now, Hashem is infinite. The universe is, I'm not sure, probably not, infinite. How much, this is a glass here, I don't know, how much do you think that is? 10 milliliters, 15 milliliters? Okay. Now, as we are surrounded by the sea here, suppose I start pumping, I take a pump down, because just a couple of blocks from here into the sea. I start pumping, that's connected to the Atlantic, which connects to the Pacific and all the seas. I start pumping an infinite amount of water into my 20 milliliter glass here. How much can I get in? A bit more now. How much can I get in? 20 milliliters. Or as a gallon, you can only get a gallon in. Because it's a finite container, but you're pouring in an infinite amount of liquid.
It'll shatter.
Well, or just keep pouring out, right? I'm not saying necessarily under pressure, we could drip it
That's
in.
why a person would die if they see Hashem.
Yeah. And obviously, a human mind is by definition finite. So therefore, how could you possibly get the Torah in it? Okay, that's an idea. So Moshe Rabbeinu is shown the menorah, but it just won't go in. Of course, it won't go in. How could it possibly go in? So therefore, so he says there's Valama Sha'ruchnis Ha'ilamahu Ruchani Ma'id. So since that's pure, heaven is pure ruchnius, and we're not
on this world.
Sorry?
You're supposed to make it for this world. It's supposed to exist over here. So.
Right. Could I get the whole of the water? Is there a way to get all of the water in the world into this?
Not at the same time.
At the same time?
No.
Yes. Which makes no sense at all, because as I've just described to you, it's an impossibility to get a finite into an infinite. That's describing the laws of physics. But suppose we can suspend the laws of physics. So as Rabbi Dessa says, how is it possible for Moshe Rabbeinu to get the Torah? He was the cap of the Torah. It's infinite. So the answer is because Hashem, and indeed Hashem would not go in. Moshe, all this is a Plato of the time. He couldn't get any of it because it's not just Tariag mitzvahs. I mean, the entire world, the entire universe is Hashem wrote the Torah first. So whatever you want to, and that's only one dimension of the world as we understand it. So imagine that Hashem writes the Torah, and then makes the whole universe from that. We just agreed you can't get the universe into if you can't see it, you can't get all the water, all the matter in the world into a container. But you could if it was a miracle. So ultimately, Hashem has to do a miracle in order to get the Torah into Klal Yisrael, and that's from Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, but there seems to be the sticking point. Some things he can't see. So he says it's how it was shown. First of all, it was shown in Shemaim. He saw the Mishkan, because there's a Mishkan here, there's a Mishkan Shemaim, there's a Beis HaMikdash Shomata, Beis HaMikdash Shomalo. He saw it there. He saw the menorah there and the Mishkan there, and it just wouldn't go in. He has to be shown it again. So where's he shown it again? He's shown it now in the world of the Malachim. Okay, so here we go. This is all these big. Don't get anywhere near this. This is such deep stuff. So, no, he just likes the whiskey. He's here all night. Okay, so he says, listen to the Lashon. Since that world is pure ruchnius, that's if you like the infinite amount of water in the glass. How could that picture be contained within the human mind? Even the what do you call it, the container, what's the manner about where they contain the oil, that bit, the cups. There's a difficult word. Oh, I was really struck up. Yes. Well, thank you. I must write that one down so I'll remember to use it again and impress people with my vocabulary. And the flowers in it has no form. But if you go to Olam HaMalachim, now, what's the nature of the world of Malachim? Bli ivus v'talbushas ma ke'elyon. It's different. So here's an interesting question to give you a taste of that. Do Malachim have Bechira?
Supposedly no.
Right, so that's interesting. No. Right, so Moshe Feinstein says yes. Okay. It's just that they exist in a world where Bechira isn't really possible. Because if you see something clearly, then you don't have it. There's no speculation. There's no alternative. There's only one. And the Malachim see clearly Hashem. That's why they sing shiur. Kadosh, 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 this year. But if you can take them out of that, then what happens? Well, when they came to earth, they behaved much worse than we do, if you remember. And the parshas of Noach, etc. So it's only because they live in a world in which they can't see Hashem, whereas here, they can see Hashem, but they come here in this olam, and olam, of course, means from the root ayin lamed mem, meaning hide or hidden, elama. So we're in a world where Hashem hides, behind nature, behind all that sort of stuff. So therefore they couldn't see Hashem, and then they behave much worse than that. So do they have Bechira or don't they? So it seems to be they're dormant, but its potential is certainly there. So the obvious question is, why do we call it Olam Haba then? If Olam defines not being able to see Hashem, so where they lived, is it still called Olam? So you all remember, of course, that when Hashem asks the Malachim, Nasa Odin Bitsalmenu Kidim Musenu, they had an answer, did they not? What was their answer? And they said no. No, actually, that's the trick question. There's another one I used to do questions. I'll let them say no. I said, no, that's not what they said. You can work out what they said. Hashem says to them, you can be Malachim. So Hashem says to you, the Maskal, Malachim, shall we make man? What do you say?
What's man? What?
Well done. What's a man? Right? It's back to what was the other strange word the guy, Mashish Blog, or whatever it was said, the guy said before. Right? What's a man? So Hashem says to you, well, he can be a higher Madriga than you, and he can be my most loyal servant, or, unlike you, he can rebel against me and be an absolutely vile, horrible person. And they went, no. Right? Now this is intriguing. They said no. If you say no, you have an opinion. If you have an opinion, you have a sense of individuality. Right? And that you have Bechira. It's just that you're in a place where Bechira can't possibly work. Do you get the idea? So therefore, but go on.
Also saying similarly, when Hashem came to give Moshe the Torah, didn't they say no, don't give it? And there was a whole
Yeah. Because they don't see it, they don't understand why, etc. And so Hashem says to Moshe, hold on to my kisi, I call it. And they won't be able to touch it because he says, no, actually Hashem says, debate with them, argue with them.
They have opinion. I don't know if they have clear.
If you've got an opinion, no, they don't Bechira because they can't use it. But they haven't, as long as you are, it's called in English, a sentient being, you're self-aware. As long as you're self-aware, then you've got Bechira. Right? This is the Rabbi Desta, I don't know if you're interested, Rabbi Desta's essay on the Chet of Adam Rishon is genius beyond genius. But of course, it's a sense of I. Right? Adam Harishon, for whatever reason he did what he did, it was I. It was he meant it L'Shem Shemayim, but still the Gemara says it was an apikars. In other words, he injected his I. As soon as you got a sense of I, then you're in trouble.
Is it that they didn't have Bechira? They couldn't use the Bechira, or they saw everything so clearly there wasn't any choice?
That's right.
It was clear, crystal clear what needs to be done.
That's right. I think that actually those are the same definitions. You've just defined the same thing twice, actually. Both are true, but both lead to the other. So therefore, on that basis, but that's why it's called. So we go back to our previous question. So why do it called a Olam HaMalachim? Because there's as long as you feel yourself separate to Hashem, then by definition, that's not pure. The highest level is not being separate to Hashem. Okay? So therefore, but here it's a bit better. So, but you still can't get that. There's more. This is all very hard to explain. I'm trying to think of words here. There's more of a possibility of seeing Hashem, or seeing the form that Hashem's showing you there. There's something in common, but not enough. So let's say Shafila Gvul Shiur Kaftara, we did that. Sorry. Ba'alam Amlochim Im Shehem Gam Ruchani Inu Zach Bli Ivus. Even though the world of the Malachim is Taka, he says, is Inu Zach Bli Ivus. It's Ruchani, it's completely spiritual, but not completely 100%. It's not completely pure. Inu Zach, it's not pure. Bli Ivus v'Salbishus Marke Elyon. It's still a little bit now. It's more towards us. And then he says, Ki halo sham yistar omara gavulas b'tzadma. You can get an idea of a malach. You could see a malach. When they come here, you can see malach. They're more near to us. Still can't get it. But it's not enough. There's not enough commonality, similarity between our perception, our level of understanding and how they see things, for Moshe to get what is being shown there either. Until it comes down to he's shown it again, and that's down in the same form, is now being shown, as it were, through the lens, or projected into the world of the Galgalim. Now that's the much more physical world. That's why I had to tell you before, they're actually creatures, but we understand that we've got a tfisa, we have a perception of that world. When I tell you they're living creatures, then you don't. Then you what? But it's nearer to us. Remember, they, as the Rambam says, they are lesser than the Malachim. She is the Divrei Mamoshi, because they can be called physical. Which will eventually get him down to Olam Hazeh, when in this world, when he gets the picture shown a fourth time, this is what it'll look like in your world. Now, there's an obvious question told us, and why on earth show him images from worlds that he's got no concept of, or can have no concept of at all? Why not just show it in the world of the planets, if that's something he's going to be able to understand? Or in this world, that's how it's going to come to this world. So what's that all about? So with that, the Alshach says, let's move to the topic here. So he sees the menorah with the rest of the kelim. Because the first pasuk says, when he's up in Har Sinai, I showed him it. That's Hashem speaking. Because remember, as we saw in the Rambam, Hashem speaks directly to Moshe. So therefore he showed him it in heaven, which poof, went flying out his mind. It was impossible for a human mind to take that. Because Hashem showing him it. Because the idea of a physical form in heaven is nonsense. Adam Arishan, and if we do that, I'll look into some more in great length. But the Gemara says that when Adam Arishan, after he died, the light that shone from his heels was greater than 2 suns in the sky. Now the heel is the lowest part of your body. So the Gemara then makes a series of Kalvachoimers. If that's the light that shone, this is being literal. In other words, if we physical creatures were to look at the light coming from his heels, we'd blind ourselves, just like looking at the sun. So because it was greater than the sun, now there's 2 of them. That's the lowest part of his body. What sort of light must have been coming from his head? The highest part of his body, and that's when he's dead. What sort of light must have emanated from him when he was alive? And that's after he ate from the Eitz Hadas. So what was he like before he ate from the Etzadas? To which Rabbi Dessa says you can now understand that the Medrash says that the Malachim, seeing Adam Rishon, come in. Would you be so kind as to see who has brought Big Ben to us? אני בתוך ציור עכשיו.
אוקיי, אני פה בשביל צדוקה.
אני מבין, אין לי כלל עכשיו. הדור אני פנק מן. סלח לי.
אוקיי.
Anyway, so...
Israelis.
See, not just the Palestinians, they impress me as well. Okay, where are we up to? Complete lost place now. I'm afraid I got lost one. Someone get money. Good. Okay, I was talking about yeah, adoration. So they actually mistook him for Hashem Yisborach. Okay, so we're talking with somebody on an incredibly high level. Even, and I can't remember what I was telling that story about, anyway, it must be for some reason. But even he felt an ani, even he felt an I. So that, if I go back to this, I'll probably come back to me. So therefore he says, Ani Mara. So Hashem says, I'm showing you that world he can't see. Ki hu yizbarach ba'asma hu mara isa va'az hoya mara v'rchonis ma'oid ba'ein oilam ha'elyon. Shezul shliz mamash etc. You're not going to see that. That's where it means when it says, when the Medrash said that we read before that he saw and he forgot. He forgets something which is beyond the human ability to understand. Okay. Ki lama shlo yochel lisbal beruchnis tfisa gevulis hoya nishpat memena pratis tziurim. In the same ways, we get no concept of what Adam Rishon was really like. It's beyond our concept. He was a creature of light, I suppose. Now, light is still physical. It's a photon, right? That's a physical entity. But here as well, in heaven, that's way beyond us. And of course, Hashem could have shown him something he could understand. It's just that. Moshe Rabbeinu could not, as a human being, even at his level, to understand that. He goes on here to say, I've got to read this a little bit. And then he eventually shows him it in this world, in physical form that he can comprehend. And through going down level after level after level, now he's able to understand the original picture that he saw. Because the question is, why didn't Hashem show him, as we said before, the vision he's gotten before? I want you to know that this I'm showing you up there is the same as here. The Mishkan here, in other words, is establishing the Mishkan here is the same as the Mishkan up there. Our behavior here affects the what goes on up there. When we say Kadosh, 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 that's why it's always a good idea to be in a minyan, as it says in Sefer Nefesh HaChaim, then and only then can the Malachim say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. There's no an interconnectivity. Shahu Laman Yaskavir, in order that Moshe will know. Of course, he could show him in a way, but I want you to know that there's a connection between these ideas. The same as it is here, right? So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is not able to understand this till eventually he brings it up to his level, and now we can understand that the question we had before: how could Moshe Rabbeinu not get stuff? Well, the question really the opposite way, but how could he get any stuff except that Hashem allows him? Now, why didn't he allow him to see this? To establish a principle, but maybe there's something else going on here. Have a different time. Shas Emes. I was jumping up and down when I found this. This Shas Emes is very good, very exciting. He says, Mishkan ha'edus. So this is of the Shas Emes in Parshas Pekudin. It's Sof Reish Mem Gimel. The Gam HaLuchas Nikra Edus, the Luchas in the Mishkan was an Edus to give testimony to Hashem. Ki hini kol habriya hoyala ed al bari yisbarach kamosh kosav. It says kol pal amanehu. That everything in the world was created for Hashem. The Mishkan is there to see Hashem. Fine. Now, he says, "Behine mekoidem nos alahem yisbarach Torah min hashamayim." Listen to this. Before Hashem gave the Torah min hashamayim, who edis she kefeshnagim, I can't say this one, ke she mis nahagim al pi derech hatera, vada roim vinim chastir Hashem is baruch made of Allah. That if you, when we were given the Torah in Mount Sinai, it was quite clear to us that if we follow, therefore, in his pathway, the path we set out in the Torah, everything's going to be fine for us. And it says, Ata haretzel adas, you started to show us this. The yesh edus beria b'liyadia u'b'yadia. There is edus, testimony to Hashem, which is b'yadia and without yadia. And there's a nice, complicated thing to say. Because it says, or raw or lo yoda. Talking about witnesses there, you saw it, or you know that it happened. There's a difference between seeing something, and knowing something. So let me read this. I'm sure that was sounded nonsense, but let's go a little further. What did Moshe Rabbeinu bring in Har Sinai? He brought down the Torah Shebiksav, and he was got luchos, and it's unbelievable miracles, one after the other. Now there's a principle here called Esrusa de Le'il and Esrusa de L'Tosa. And I think we read that not too long ago, again in Rabbi Dessler. But the Esrusa de Le'il is sometimes, like we're coming up to Pesach, sometimes Hashem will give you an incredible spiritual insight which you've not earned, you've not worked towards. I think this should be ringing a bell. We did this not too long ago. And the obvious example is Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yitzias Mitzrayim we did not deserve to go out. We hadn't worked sufficiently to go out. Even the Malach of Mitzrayim says it's ridiculously. My people, my people are idolaters, but your guys are as well. But sometimes Hashem gives you a miracle which you haven't worked for. But the rule is, if you remember when we looked at this a couple of weeks ago, Rabbi Nessa says, whenever you're given the free gift, Hashem always tests you straight away to make sure that you've taken that free gift, that illustration of who and what you could be and become, and internalized that and made it part of you. That's why the Jewish people come to the Yam Suf. 3 days later, there's no water, there's a rebellion, we don't like it here, what are we doing here, we should go back to Egypt, there's a nice pyramid, and there's a tourist attraction, we go scuba diving, and all this stuff. Why? Because there's always, if you're given it as a free gift, there's always a test afterwards. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down straight away from heaven with the Torah Shebiksav as a gift, as a free gift. And what happens? Straight away we're tested with the Egel Azov. There's always a test that comes afterwards. Right? Okay. That's if you get it as a free gift. But if you've worked for it, then unless you throw it away, it stays with you forever. Does that make sense? So he says, listen to this. Shehu b'chinas b'spaklamir. So when he gives the Torah in Har Sinai, that's called the spaklamir. It's clear in your face, this is the truth. Kamosha roin ksav belukas, as we saw, the ksav belukas, which are miraculous when a miracle takes away your choice. The life of the world was given b'sachena, shehu b'chinas Torah sheba'al peh. But that other pasuk there, the world who, the who das. You were given it, you saw it, and therefore you saw that. Wow, that was given to you. But the Torah Shebiksav is you working it out for yourself. And there's a difference between the two. Torah Shebiksav, boomf, miracles. Torah Shebal Peh, that was a different story. We don't see that. There's no big miracles to the Torah Shebal Peh. Bekoyach b'nei Yisrael. Now this is very exciting. Listen. Bekoyach b'nei Yisrael, benitvas libam. It's within the capacity of Klal Yisrael, through their nidvas libam, through their effort and their dedication and their sincerity, lechaven el rotzen abiyim sheb'shamayim, to work out what the Torah Shebiksav wants from us. Then after we made the Egel Azov, and that closeness between Hashem and us is now separated, that free gift stuff, we can only re-achieve it, he says, by us working to bring him back again. That's what we do through the Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's our efforts. Okay? Right. That's why we had to make the Mishkan. That's why we had to give the Maxis a shekel. Moshe Rabbeinu's difficulty with the Matzah Shekel is understanding the process of teshuvah for people who've done something as bad as we did, because he's not part of that. He never did that. Now, this is, if that sounded a bit weird and wacky, let me just put this into more straightforward terms. It's extraordinarily difficult, as we said before, to understand something you've never had any experience of, in the big philosophical, mystical sense. But also in the very pragmatic sense. There was somebody called Rish Lakish. And everybody knows that Rish Lakish was the leader of a band of thieves. The more, again, it's a whole shiur in the sun, right? But actually he was a Talmud Chacham who went off. He was the real Baal Tshuva. Then he became a leader of Baal Tshuva, and then he became a leader of band thieves, and then he becomes a Baal Tshuva. So we all know that Chazal say where a Baal Tshuva stands, even a tzaddik bin tzaddik cannot come close. And that sounds a bit strange, really, because you could say comes close to somebody, but I mean, it's hard to do catch up. But what it really means, one of my great teachers, Rabbi Halpin, who's like a tzaddik kol shivrocha, the greatest mind I think I ever met, Rabbi Halpin, he said that when Rish Lakish comes back and now becomes the great Rosh Hashiva, when Rish Lakish comes back and is a Rosh Hashiva, then the gezeras he will make in his yeshiva against Geneva are going to be much more machmir and much more strict than any other Rosh Hashiva. Why? Not just nishul, which is true, not just that he stumbled in the idea of stealing. I mean, I don't get stealing, and I'm sure nobody sitting at this table gets stealing. But there are some people who stealing things is so geschmack. You know, I stole this guy's watch. Look at him, and the geschmack is that you stole it, and the whole sorts of collections of stuff that they stole. The geschmack is the stealing. It would give me. I would just feel dreadful if I stole something. It would give me no hana whatsoever. I just feel dreadful. But some people like that. So therefore, if I was a Rosh Hashiva and I made gezeros, to protect people's property, they're pretty shocked because I've got no time for it. It doesn't affect me. But Rish Lakish gets it, right? Because he's been there, he gets it. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't get that. Moshe Rabbeinu can't get that because he was never in that madriga, but they can. He never felt, they felt. So let's just skip over here and I'll read to you another little bit. So therefore the Jewish people to bring it back again, now it's got to be through their efforts down here. But also in Israel a Mishkan, and they bring a Mishkan, Vavi al Moshe, and bring it to Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom. There's a posuk, Rabbis Bonus Asakos, a nice song as well, if you ever listen to the Kol Salonika first LP, that was very nice, it was on there. Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom says, Tiknu B'nei Yisrael Ma'atzmei. At that stage, it's up for Klal Yisrael to do their efforts and input things right. Reading and skipping a bit, and he's skipping a big bit. Ubetzalo, we're back to Betzalo. Ubetzalo also is kol asher tziv eloi drosha chazal, and we know the drosha chazal, even things that Moshe afila mashalo haya omer Moshe Rabbeinu. And this is kol asher animara la'adia ki b'nei Yisrael b'choshech al yidei hamuna yachonim lekaven das abiyim shemishmaim. That their efforts through the Torah Shabbat Peh, working it out, Yosef Mikol Neviim can reach a level greater than all of the Neviim. Now we said right at the beginning that a Novi sees things, we explained how Nevius works. But Chazal say, Chochem Odav Minovi. Chochem Odav Minovi. You can't understand something except with that which is in your grasp, that in your human experience. So that's why a Novi always, when he gets his message, always gets it in the form of lions and whatever they see, but it's something that he has to interpret. But it's all, the imagery is always within the parameters of their experience. But a Chacham can understand things and picture things and imagine things that is beyond our imagination. You can't invent the alien for me that I asked you before, or invent for me a new colour, but you can imagine that there could be a new colour. But a Novi can only understand things according to his experience. Do you get the idea? A human being, through his chokhmah and his Torah Shabbat Peh, can work out things which are in a higher madrig in the Torah Shabbat Ksav. Do you get this idea? Here's a book by one of my personal heroes, me. And in it, there's I think a very good example of this. It's a story. I'm not showing the book off. It's just that I can't remember the story well. So good. Good. I once recall on Rosh Hashanah, someone told me a story about a Jew who came to the famous Tzaddik Yankel of Antwerp after the Second World War and posed him a question. Let's see if you can answer the question. Right, you ready? Here's the question. Rebbe, why in Avinu Malkeinu do we refer to those who were killed al Yehudecha, in the name of your oneness, and then regarding those who were killed we say al Kiddush Shemecha, for the sanctification of your name. So the Rebbe didn't have an answer, so the man offered his own. So you got the question. Yeah? I was rounded up in Poland and were made to watch as a group of Jews were lined up against a wall, facing a man with a machine gun. As the order to fire was given, the Jews all shouted out, unsurprisingly, Shema Yisrael, HaShem Elokeinu, HaShem Echad. The German swept his gun from left to right along the line, and the bodies fell. Those to the left only had the chance to shout, Shema Yisrael, HaShem Elokeinu, before they died. Those at the end of the line had time to complete the words, HaShem Echad, HaShem is one, and then they fell. Some of those who were killed died expressing Al Yehudecha, in the name of your oneness, and some who were killed on the other side of the line died expressing Al Kiddush Shemecha, for the sanctification of your name. The man looked at the famous tzaddik who now had helped him to understand what Avinu Malkeinu uses two expressions, then he nodded and walked away. There can be an experience that a person has that gives him an insight which is beyond Nevi'ah. Does that make sense? Okay, now we're running out of time. In fact, we've run out of time. So Baruch Hashem, we are here next week, so we're going to finish this next week because it's a big topic. But over the page, we talked about bear this in mind. I'll sum up next week. That if Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Madrigi is on, is now touching something which is beyond his experience when he saw Shemayim, he's not able to deal with that. But there is something which is Chochem Odav Minovi, and therefore B'Tzalel, and here he says, again let me read to what the Sfas Emes says. He says, Laudia ki b'nei Yisrael b'choshech, even though they don't see it, not given it as a free gift, they're able to work out the das of Hashem Yisbarach more than any of the Nevi'im. Now we go back to what we said. B'Tzalel said, are you sure? Are you sure that's what Hashem told you? He's able to work it out with das, something which Nevi'us can be obscured by because it's beyond your experience. Does that make sense? Over the other page, and that's where we end, we'll leave that to be a nice lead-in for next week, we come to another thing that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get. So we've got Koftes Amud Aleph, and that was Moshe Rabbeinu not getting the Mishkan and all the Kalim. But here's another one, and that's Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. When Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to heaven, he sees Hashem, and he's tying the tagim to the letters of the Chumash, of the Torah. Okay. Now, this is for next week. We'll try and get a good translation of this. Let's just translate it very badly as what you're doing. So he says, no, sorry, I missed that bit. He says, there is going to be somebody in the future, at the end of many generations. But Akiva ben Yosef Shemaim is called Akiva ben Yosef. That he is going to be able to give droshes on each of these tagim, these crowns in the letters, talin shel halachas, thousands of halachas. Can I see him? Now the translation here was, I had a big discussion with my son on this one. What does that mean? Chazal la'achrayach. I was like, Chazal, go back, la'achrayach, to behind you, right? But it also means how would you translate acher? Behind, or the back of you, or so there's what's going to come from you? What's coming? What will flow from you? Amal Chazak, and Chazak means my son, the Talmud, started pointing out to Gemara's but say Chazak can mean look as well. So look to what will come from you, right? Not behind you, what will come from you. Holach LeYoshe beside Shemona Shoras, and he stands between 8 rows, and some people say 18 rows. And he's not understanding what Rabbi Akiva is darshaning. He got very upset. Kim Shagil Adover Echad, when he got to one particular drasha, Omaloi Talmid, one of Talmid Rebbe Menai Lachol. Where do you get that from? Omaloi, and Halacha Moshe B'Sinai. Halacha Moshe B'Sinai. And they say Data and Moshe Rabbeinu got, again, settled with this. Now, here's another thing he doesn't get. He doesn't get Rabbi Akiva. And he doesn't get Rabbi Akiva's Torah, which is his Torah. So next week we'll take this a stage further. But if you're not, as it were, in the same ballpark as somebody, if your life experience, in the case, we've now established that if Moshe Rabbeinu as a human being is looking at dimensions above a human intellect, he's going to be struggling. Why and how does that apply to another human being? How did he not get Rabbi Akiva? Try that next week.
It's not from 12 3.